Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Ryan Lamas.
I'm Renata Scolto, and today we're going deep on intermittent fasting. IF.
IF, right. So we're going to figure out what it is, how it works, and does it actually live up to the hype?
And if it does work, you might actually need to get a whole new wardrobe. Might need to buy some new clothes. At least according to one of our sources, this YouTube video by Dr. Berg.
Okay, all right. So understanding all this stuff, it can really change the way you think about food and your health. And hey, while we're at it, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Thinkiverse. Unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day, and we've got tons more deep dives coming at you, just like this one.
So let's get started. What exactly is this thing, intermittent fasting?
Yeah, it's not like you're starving yourself, right?
No. It's more like a schedule, kind of. Think of it like, how in school you have class time and then you have recess? It's like with IF, you have times when you eat, and then you have times when you fast. You don't eat anything. And it's not about changing what you eat, but more like when you eat.
Okay, that makes sense. So if I'm not eating, what's my body doing? Just like hanging out.
Well, when you fast for a certain period of time,
Ah,
your body is going to use up its stored sugar. It's like, it's quick energy snack. And then it's like, okay, time to burn some fat.
uh-huh. So that's the secret everyone keeps talking about.
Yeah, that's the weight loss secret.
So, but what else does it do besides help you lose weight?
There's studies showing that IF can help with a lot of things, like making your body better at using insulin, which is really important for people with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. But before any diabetics out there try
Yeah.
this, you got to talk to your doctor first, right? Don't go make any big changes without talking to your doctor.
Exactly. Safety first, always. IF can also be good for your heart. Studies show it can lower your cholesterol and blood pressure.
So it's like a tune-up for your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some research suggesting that it can even reduce inflammation, boost your mood, and give you more energy.
Wow, that's a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
And speaking of feeling good, there's the big IF study, which was like a massive experiment. A lot of people trying IF. And it found that many people had less bloating.
Yeah, they felt better, had more energy, and they even snacked less. Pretty impressive, right?
Hmm.
But we also have to talk about the not so fun side of things too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what are the potential downsides? What should we be aware of?
Well, like anything new, your body might need some time to adjust. Some people get headaches, feel dizzy, or even a little moody at first.
Yeah, and I've also heard muscle loss is a concern too, right?
Yeah, that's a possibility, especially if you're not careful about getting enough protein. Or, if you're someone who's super active and working out a lot.
Right. So again, it's about listening to your body and maybe working with like a doctor or nutritionist to make sure you're doing it right.
Exactly. And one more thing. Sometimes people overeat on their non-fasting days because they're so hungry. And that kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah, like thinking you can eat a whole cake just because you skip breakfast.
Right.
Doesn't really work like that.
Not how it works.
Not how it works.
And there's one more risk we need to mention. There's a potential connection between IF and heart problems. Now, this is based on a recent study, so, more research is definitely needed. But it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so it's not like a magical cure-all. There are definitely things to consider
Right.
before you jump right in.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's important to know all the facts so you can decide if IF is right for you. Now, speaking of facts and knowledge, have you checked out our YouTube channel lately? Thinkiverse?
Oh yeah, it's like a playground for curious minds. We're always unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day over there.
We are.
And hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes.
Now let's talk about the different ways to do intermittent fasting. Because it's not, a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's more like, you have options.
Yeah,
It's like a buffet.
a fasting buffet. I love it.
Oh.
Okay, so what are our choices here?
Okay. So one popular method is called time-restricted feeding, or TRF for short.
Okay.
It's all about setting a window, a specific time to eat. And then you fast for the rest of the day.
So like the 16-8 method I've heard about. You eat for 8 hours and then you fast for 16.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward, and it seems to work well for a lot of people.
Okay. And then there's also the 5-2 method. So you eat normally for 5 days and then you restrict your calories for 2 days.
Yeah, it's like having like mini fasts sprinkled throughout the week. And if you're feeling really adventurous, there's also alternate day fasting.
Whoa, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
So you're like switching back and forth
You're basically switching
between eating
between eating normally and eating very little
every other day.
or nothing at all every other day.
Wow. Okay. Definitely not for everyone,
Not for everyone.
but some people swear by it, huh?
Yeah, some people swear by it. And then there's OMAD, which stands for 1 meal a day.
Okay, that's for the hardcore IFers, right? So
Exact.
you eat one big meal and then,
One big healthy meal and then fast for the rest of the day.
oh,
Yeah. Dr. Berg, he's a big fan of this one.
wow.
And he even recommends like finishing your meal by 3 p.m. for potentially better sleep and weight loss.
Interesting. So it's not just what you eat, it's when you eat.
Exact.
And then finally, there's something called periodic prolonged fasting.
Yeah, that's where you incorporate like longer fasts.
Yeah.
Like 48 hours to 120 hours every now and then. But we'll get into that more later.
But there are so many options. It's like choose your own adventure, but with fasting. But how do you know which one's right for you?
That's a great question, and that's something we're going to explore further in this deep dive. But before we do that,
Yeah.
I just want to remind everyone about Thinkiverse. That's our YouTube channel where we're all about unlocking knowledge.
Yes.
We've got tons of videos and podcasts coming up, so hit that subscribe button and join us.
All right. So we've covered what IF is, how it works, some of the benefits, some of the risks, even different types.
A lot of information.
Lots of information, right?
What stands out to you so far?
Honestly, I'm amazed by all the potential benefits.
Right.
Weight loss, heart health, less inflammation, even mood boosts. It's incredible. But it also makes you wonder, how can just changing when you eat have such a big impact?
Right. That's what's so fascinating about this whole thing. It shows you how connected everything is in our bodies,
Yeah.
Our hormones, our cells.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. And it also, emphasizes that IF isn't some magic bullet. It's not a cure-all, and it's definitely not for everyone, like we've talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on IF so far? And based on what you've learned, do you think it's something you would want to try?
Those are some great questions to think about as we continue our deep dive.
Right.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to Thinkiverse on YouTube.
Yes.
We'll be back soon with part 2, where we're going to delve deeper into the science behind IF and how some people are using it, in their everyday lives.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
We're picking up right where we left off with intermittent fasting.
And, it's fascinating to think about this idea that just changing when you eat
Yeah.
can have such a big impact on your body.
Yeah. We talked about all the benefits, right? Weight loss, heart health, mood improvements.
Right.
It's like a whole body tune-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also talked about, the importance of doing it safely, talking to your doctor
Yeah.
before making any big changes,
Oh.
especially if you have any, health conditions.
Absolutely. Safety first.
Oh, safety first, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about how all this works, like on a scientific level. It can't just be like, giving your stomach a break.
Right. It's way more complex than that. Remember we talked about that metabolic switching? That's
Yeah.
when your body, runs out of its quick energy from sugar, and it's like, okay, time to burn some fat for fuel.
Yeah, that makes sense for the weight loss, but
Yeah.
but like what else is happening?
Well, it triggers changes in your hormones. So when you're fasting, your insulin levels drop. And that's important because insulin is like the key that lets sugar into your cells for energy.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So less insulin means less sugar is getting stored as fat.
Exactly. And at the same time, your body releases more glucagon, which tells your liver to start releasing stored sugar into your bloodstream.
So it's like a backup energy source.
Exactly, precisely. And all of this, helps your body become like a fat-burning machine. But there's even more to it than that. Fasting also has some cool effects on like a cellular level.
Okay, so now we're getting really deep.
Yeah.
So what happens in our cells when we fast?
Triggers this process called autophagy.
Autophagy.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a cellular spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning for our cells.
Yeah.
I like the sound.
Yeah, it's like your cells are like, okay, time to declutter, get rid of all this junk. They break down all the damaged parts, they recycle them,
Right.
which helps, keep everything running smoothly.
So it's not just about what you eat. It's about giving your body a chance to kind of like repair
Yeah.
and rejuvenate from the inside out.
Yeah, and some scientists even believe that this whole process of autophagy is
Mhm.
one of the key reasons why IF has so many potential benefits. Like, we're talking about reducing inflammation, potentially protecting against age-related diseases,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. But here's something that's been bugging me. We've been talking about like how fasting is good for you,
Right?
but isn't it kind of stressful for your body to like not eat?
That's a great question. And you're right, fasting does put a little bit of stress on your body. But here's the thing, sometimes a little bit of stress can actually be a good
I
thing.
mean, how can stress be good?
Well, think of it like exercise.
Yeah.
When you lift weights, you're stressing your muscles.
Right.
But that stress is what makes them stronger.
Ah, okay. So you're saying fasting is kind of like a workout for your body systems.
Exactly. Yeah, when your body experiences, mild temporary stress, like during a fast,
Yeah.
it triggers these adaptive responses
Okay.
that can actually make it stronger and more resilient in the long run.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
But how do we know how much stress is too much?
Yeah, well, that's where listening to your body and working with a healthcare professional comes in.
Right.
It's all about finding the right balance. You're pushing yourself a little bit,
Right.
but not overdoing it.
Right. Because chronic stress, that's not good for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of pushing ourselves, let's push that subscribe button on Thinkiverse.
Yes, our YouTube channel full of deep dives, all sorts of fascinating topics. We're always adding more, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out.
Okay, so we've talked about the science behind IF, but I'm curious to see like how it works in real life. Like, what does a typical day on an IF plan look like?
That's a great question, and that's something we're going to be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at some real-world examples of how people are incorporating IF into their lives, along with some tips and strategies to make it work for you.
That sounds great. But before you move on, let's take a quick commercial break to hear a word from our sponsor. Welcome back to the deep dive.
We are in the final stretch of our exploration of intermittent fasting.
And now that we've kind of, gone over the science and the types,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm ready to actually get into like the how-to.
You mean how to make it work?
Yeah. How to make it
It's
work.
your everyday life.
Exactly. Because, let's be real, all the theory in the world isn't going to do you any good if you're like walking around hangry all the time.
Right. That's a really good point. I think one of the biggest things people worry about with IF is that they're going to be like constantly hungry,
Nobody wants to feel like they're
miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just surviving on willpower alone.
Right. But here's the interesting thing. A lot of people, once they kind of get past that initial adjustment period, they actually find that IF helps them feel less hungry overall.
Really? How is that possible?
Well, remember those hormonal changes we were talking about?
Yeah.
That decrease in insulin and that increase in glucagon?
Right. That helps your body become a fat-burning machine.
Exactly. And those hormonal shifts can also help regulate your appetite and actually make you feel fuller for longer.
So it's not just about like, white-knuckling it through the fasting window.
No, not at all. It's about working with your body
Right.
and making smart food choices that
Yeah.
keep you satisfied.
And Dr. Berg mentioned something about fat being important
He did.
for feeling full, right?
Yeah. He recommends, including healthy fats in your meals to help you stay full
Okay.
between those eating windows.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making sure you're getting
You're getting the nutrients
Yeah.
your body needs.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some like practical tips then
Yeah.
for making IF work.
All right, so the most important thing is to start slow. Don't don't try to jump from eating all day long to like a super restricted plan overnight.
Right.
That's not going to work.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you want to ease into it.
Yeah.
Let your body adjust. Maybe try pushing back breakfast by an hour or two each day.
Okay.
And gradually extend that fasting window over time.
And remember, consistency is key. Like it's better to find a plan that you can stick with, long term,
Yes.
than trying something super extreme that you can't actually maintain.
Couldn't agree more. And here's another really crucial tip. Stay hydrated.
Yeah, I mean, drinking water is always important,
Always important.
but especially it seems like when you're fasting.
Extra important when you're fasting. Yeah, water can help with those hunger pangs. It can help prevent dehydration,
Yeah.
which can happen when you're doing IF.
And what about electrolytes? I've heard those are important.
Yeah, electrolytes are really important. They're minerals that help your body function properly,
Yeah.
and they can actually get depleted during fasting.
So how do we make sure we're getting enough of those?
You can replenish electrolytes by just having electrolyte-rich drinks
Okay.
or food, like bone broth, coconut water, things like that.
Okay, good to know. So now let's talk about food.
Hmm.
Like during our eating window, what should we be eating?
Well, you want to focus on nutrient-dense foods that are going to, give you that long-lasting energy,
Okay.
keep you feeling good.
So, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to minimize the processed foods,
Right.
sugary drinks, refined carbs, because those can spike your blood sugar, make you feel sluggish.
Yeah. And remember what Dr. Berg said about like ending your eating window by 3 p.m.?
Yes. It's definitely worth experimenting with, seeing how that affects your sleep,
Yeah.
your energy levels.
It's so interesting. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but it's clear that it is a pretty powerful tool
It
that can have a
is.
big impact on your
Yeah,
health.
for sure. But as we've said throughout this whole thing,
Yeah.
it's not a magic bullet. It's important to do it safely, listen to your body,
Right.
and, talk to your doctor
Yeah. Talk to your doctor.
before making any changes,
Always, always.
especially if you have any health concerns.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Ooh, okay. Hit me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about how the stress of fasting can be beneficial for your body, kind of like exercise.
Right, like a workout for your cells.
Yeah, exactly. What about other types of mild stress? Like, could things like exercise or even cold exposure have similar benefits?
That's a really interesting question.
Right.
That's something to think about.
Yeah. Something to ponder.
Definitely.
And hey, if you're looking for more thought-provoking content like this, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Thinkiverse.
Yes. Thinkiverse. Unlocking knowledge across the spectrum every day.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.